2,000 feet of empty air. A crumbling ledge no wider than you boot, and a silent killer closing the gap. Out here, teeth and claws don't kill. Gravity does. One shifting pebble, one fraction of a second of panic, and the sun-baked abyss claims another ghost. Today, we decode the ultimate vertical standoff. You'll see exactly how the desert bighorn cheats death and why fighting back is actually a guaranteed death sentence. If you respect raw, unforgiving wilderness survival, anchor your footing and hit subscribe. Out here, the margin for error isn't measured in inches, it's measured in millimeters. One misstep, one slight miscalculation of your own weight against crumbling rock, and the sun-baked abyss claims another ghost. Welcome to the American Southwest, a world where gravity is the only absolute law, where the blistering heat strips away everything but the primal will to live, and where every single ledge is a gamble with death. Look closely at this vertical labyrinth. This terrain doesn't forgive weakness, and it certainly doesn't reward panic. To survive on a sheer natural red sandstone canyon cliff, you need far more than just luck or speed. You need flawless spatial awareness, an instinctual, almost supernatural understanding of distance, texture, and structural decay. The desert bighorn sheep ram doesn't just survive here, he dominates it. His entire biological architecture is a specialized weapon forged against the endless void. Notice the methodical way he moves across the extreme vertical landscape. It's never about brute force. It's about calculated, unyielding precision. Those highly specialized shock-absorbing hooves flare out with every single step, gripping microscopic imperfections in the sheer stone like a mechanical vice. It's a breathtaking masterpiece of evolutionary design, built specifically to endure blistering surface temperatures and terrifying heights. Because out here, stamina is everything. Thermal endurance isn't just about surviving the relentless glare of the midday sun. It's about outlasting absolutely anything that tries to follow you into the unforgiving sky. But he isn't alone on these ledges. The apex predator of these canyons, the solitary puma, operates in total, suffocating silence. A lethal ghost slipping effortlessly through the deep shadows of the vertical labyrinth. The puma knows that a direct, chaotic chase only wastes precious metabolic energy. Instead, it waits with terrifying patience. It relies on absolute stillness, flattening its body and blending perfectly into the rock, waiting for the exact right fraction of a second to unleash a terrifying, explosive burst of kinetic energy. The predator knows the ultimate rule. One slip, one microscopic moment of hesitation means a fatal drop. This silent war isn't new. It has been raging across these same ridges for millennia. 12,000 years ago, during the brutal twilight of the Ice Age, these same twisting canyons echoed with the heavy, terrifying footfalls of the Smilodon, the massive saber-toothed cat. Back then, the ancient ancestors of this modern ram didn't fight back with their horns. That's a modern myth. Fighting a heavily armored apex predator head-on meant immediate, violently certain death. Instead, they used the extreme vertical landscape as their ultimate weapon. They lured heavier, muscle-bound killers higher and higher up the sheer natural red sandstone canyon cliff, leading them into a death trap. Those heavy, muscular saber-tooths simply weren't built for the dizzying high ledges. They desperately lacked the shock-absorbing hooves needed to break successfully on loose, crumbling gravel. By intentionally ascending into the most treacherous altitudes, the ancient rams forced their hunters to make a deadly, unbalanced mistake. The heavy saber-tooths plunged into the sun-baked abyss, victims of their own aggressive body weight. But in the vertical labyrinth, silence is often a liar. Over thousands of years, the ram's massive curling horns evolved to absorb physical impact and regulate intense core heat, becoming a critical part of their biological architecture, ensuring they possessed the vital thermal endurance to climb into the stratosphere where no heavy hunter could ever safely follow. Back in the brutal present, the final standoff begins. The puma locks its pale green eyes onto its target. High above the distant valley floor, both animals enter a terrifying state of absolute stillness. A high-stakes staring contest on the very edge of the world. The ram holds his ground without flinching, displaying perfect, unyielding spatial awareness, knowing full well that stepping back even an inch means surrendering to the void. He subtly angles his thick skull and heavy horns, creating an impenetrable passive barrier. Then, the heavy silence shatters. The puma explodes forward, unleashing all of its tightly stored kinetic energy in a desperate, lunging leap. But the fragile, crumbling rock betrays the heavy hunter. The sandstone ledge shatters and gives way under the massive impact. Gravity instantly takes over. The puma's sharp claws scrape frantically, helplessly against the unyielding stone, completely unable to find a grip, resulting in a terrifying, plunging, fatal drop into the shadowy gorge thousands of feet below. Survival, however, is only temporary. The thick red dust finally settles over the silent canyon. The ram stands completely victorious. Not through violence, not through shedding blood, but through pure endurance and vastly superior evolutionary design. He didn't have to strike a single blow. He just had to hold his ground and outlast the collapse. This is the raw, unfiltered reality of the Canyonlands. You don't beat the mountain, you just survive it until the sun finally goes down. So, I have to ask you, if you found yourself entirely trapped on a crumbling ledge with a 1,000-foot drop below and a relentless hunter closing in, Would you trust your primal instincts to hold the line or take the desperate, blind leap? Let me know your ultimate survival strategy down in the comments. And stay sharp out there.